on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is the Kaged Review, and this is my review for Man of Steel. So this is the movie that officially kicks off the DCEU. They tried with Green Lantern. Turns out to be the worst movie on this entire list. And Man of Steel is honestly one of my favorite movies on this entire list, for a lot of reasons. Some people had issue with it. I'm actually going to get into that after the review. I'm going to talk about some of the issues that people had with it and why whiny bitches really screw up movies. So, having said that, this is directed by Zack Snyder. They bring in Henry Cavill, or Cavill as it were, as Kal-El, Clark Kent, Superman. Kevin Costner plays Jonathan Kent, his father. Diane Lane plays Martha Kent, his mother. You have Russell Crowe as his actual alien father, Jor-El. Ayelet Zurer as Laura Van, which is his alien mother. And I hope that doesn't get too convoluted there. Amy Adams as Lois Lane. Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, who is the leader of the Daily Planet, the news center there, if you're not familiar. And then you have another minor role with Christopher Maloney playing Colonel Nathan Hardy, who I actually thought had a really cool role in here. Your main antagonist is Michael Shannon as General Zod. Of course, you had to have General Zod here. And you had Anche Treu as Fiora Uhl. So, that is your cast of characters. This is the story of Superman. Most people are familiar by now, but they did a really good job of retelling this. You actually started out on planet Krypton, where Superman is from, and you have Jor-El and Laura Van, who are the mother and father. The planet's dying. They're trying to talk to people because they've used up the resources. The core of this planet is imploding. And they decided to have a natural birth, something that planet Krypton hasn't had in a very long time. They actually produce babies, and they're kind of created to be specific warriors or engineers or scientists, whatever it is. You have a pre-diagnosed plan for your life and job. And so they had a natural birth, and they wanted their son to be free. And so they're getting ready to put him in this pod and send him to Earth because their planet is dying. And they have this thing called the Codex, which is a way to bring the Kryptonians back to life. It's like the cells or the embryos or whatever of literally a billion people. And they fuse this with the individual cells in Superman. General Zod is trying to get that Codex so that he can recreate Krypton and weed out the bloodlines that he, deems unworthy. And he wants to create a new Krypton. So he throws a coup for the government. He winds up not being successful. The government trap him, and they send him to this place called the Phantom Zone. It's like a big black hole. So Kal-El goes to Earth, and you see him as a man, and they do flashbacks of him as a kid, and just you kind of get the highlights of him growing up and adjusting to Earth's atmosphere, and certain major events that happen along the way that kind of create who Superman is. Krypton eventually explodes, and that explosion actually releases General Zod and his group from captivity. And so they find out that Superman is now on Earth, so they go to Earth to find him, and they basically tell the people of Earth through all their telecommunications devices, phones, TVs, whatever, uses satellites, and they send this message: give us Superman or Earth will pay. And so Superman turns himself in, and it was really, really cool because you see him get on the ship, and it's like he's not used to Krypton's atmospheric, so he goes through a lot of pain, and he's rejecting the atmosphere, and so it kind of makes him like any other man for a while. And they do some testing on him, and they try to figure out where the Codex is. Jor-El is still kind of conscious through this program. It allows him to create this hologram. It has, like I said, his consciousness in it. And so he helps Superman escape via Lois Lane because they wanted to take Lois Lane up to the ship too. And so they escape, And then there is an absolutely phenomenal fight scene because while Superman was still on the ship, General Zod goes to the Kent farm where his mother is, and he's trying to find the Codex, and he's threatening his mother, and then Superman comes out and just starts beating the holy hell out of General Zod. And it creates this phenomenal fight scene because General Zod, okay, he's done. He's in the ship. But now you've got Fiora, and I forget the name of the other Kryptonian that's with her, but they both take on Superman in this epic, epic, epic fight scene in Smallville. And it was mind-blowing. It was absolutely everything I've ever wanted to see in a superhero movie because it shows you what these larger-than-life, godlike creatures coming down to Earth and having a massive fight would actually look like. Flying through buildings, massive destruction, and it was insane. Like, you know, these guys hit each other and they go flying for like a mile. And it was like you've never seen anything like this on a movie screen before. You just haven't. Zack Snyder did a phenomenal job of creating this whole Smallville scene. It was ridiculous. And on top of that, you've got military coming in during this fight scene, and they're trying to take out these three Kryptonians, and obviously that's not working. And so there's also a fight, not just between Superman and the other two Kryptonians, but the other two Kryptonians, and Superman for that matter, and the army. And I thought that was really cool. It created some great, great, great action sequences. So eventually Superman wins out. He smashes their masks in, and the atmosphere on Earth is much different, and so their senses just get all crazy without their mask. And that's kind of what happened. He exposes that weakness, and, you know, General Zod even says that. He says, you know, he exposed a temporary weakness. So back up on the Kryptonian ship, General Zod finds out that the Codex is actually in Superman's cells, and he asks if Superman needs to be alive to extract the cells. The other guy's like, no. And so they release this thing called the World Engine. It basically is this machine that works in tandem with each other on opposite sides of the Earth's poles and creates a different atmosphere. It creates a different core. And so they're basically trying to turn Earth into Krypton so that General Zod can bring back the Kryptonian population on Earth. And of course, humans will no longer be alive. So Superman has to stop this. He goes and destroys the World Engine, and then, you know, that leaves just General Zod, who is really pissed now because there was a great quote, you know, something to the extent of, whatever I do, no matter how evil or how barbaric or whatever, however he worded it, it's for the betterment of my people, and now I have no people. And so Zod is determined now. He's either going to die or kill Kal-El. So again, another incredibly impressive fight scene here between Superman and General Zod. Fucking phenomenal all the way through. Like, this fight scene, every time I watch this movie, like I obviously just watched it to recap, I just get giddy. Like, seeing this stuff, it brings out the kid in me. And I don't see a whole lot of this anymore, honestly. Like, the extent that they went to for this movie, like, was great. And everything looked phenomenal. There were times you could tell it was CGI, but it didn't take me out, and, like, it was very fluid. Going from CGI to the actual Clark Kent and stuff, it looked really, really good, honestly. So, at the end of the day, obviously, Superman is going to get the better of General Zod. He's got him in, like, this headlock thing. And General Zod is shooting these, like, heat lasers from his eyes. And there's a family there, and he's going to kill them unless Superman kills him. So he's basically forcing Superman's hand. So Superman has to kill General Zod. That was, I mean, I think it was a great ending, Honestly, I really do. A lot of people had a problem. Superman shouldn't kill people. Well, read a comic because Superman's killed more than one person in the comics, including General Zod. So, other highlights, Lois Lane obviously trying to track down Superman. There was a moment where he was explaining why he doesn't want everybody knowing who he is, how his dad thinks that the world wouldn't accept him, and actually let himself die because he didn't want Clark Kent saving him from a tornado. And they had a big tornado scene there where Clark Kent gets sucked up. And that was a pretty cool moment. I really liked Kevin Costner and Diane Lane as the parents, the human parents. I thought that was really cool. They brought a very human element to it. And yeah, it was just really awesome. It wasn't a perfect movie, but it was damn good. It was damn entertaining. You did get some cheesy dialogue, especially military dialogue when they're trying to explain shit they couldn't possibly know anything about, like the world engine, stuff like that. So, I mean, you just get that with these movies, unfortunately. So, you did get some explanation at points where it's just like, all right, dude, a little bit of exposition was cheesy. But other than that, man, it was just a fun fucking ride. This was an amazing movie, in my opinion. I absolutely loved it. So, for the grade, and then I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I had issue with the complaints people just poured out over the internet that really screwed up the next two movies. For the grade for this, I'm honestly going to give this a fucking 9.5 out of 10. It wasn't entirely perfect, but it was as close as you can get for my enjoyment of a movie. This is what I want to see. I want to see the chaos. I want to see what it's like to have these superhero-like beings come to Earth and have these big face-offs. I thought it was very, very well done. The backstory was cool. The introduction with Krypton was amazing. Everything looked great. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. 9 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Now, as I'm getting to that part, let's talk about something else, shall we? So when this movie came out, there was a massive uproar on the internet that clearly got back to Zack Snyder. And it was about all the violence and how there were so many people and, there's just all this destruction. Well, that's the way it would be. And honestly, Marvel movies have done the exact same thing where you've got a ton of people, but you have to have that. That's part of, the suspense of everything. When you take that away, there's not as much suspense. It's not as cool looking. They also had a problem with Superman killing someone. That was ridiculous. And then, unfortunately, Zack Snyder took some of these criticisms to heart, and you could tell in Batman v Superman and Justice League, and it really lessened the movies. And so sometimes you get this small but very loud part of the movie community that, they're just so vocal on social media, and they're not even the majority of fans. And unfortunately, people sometimes do take what they say to heart, and they have, they try to make everybody happy, but you can't. You have to make the movie that you want to make. And when Batman v Superman came out, I think it really suffered. There were even more than a couple of times where, they had to go out of their way to be like, this area is clear right now, or there's nobody here. And it's like, dude, just make your movie. Don't listen to these idiots on the internet because they don't know how to make a movie. I don't know how to make a movie. So that was a thought that I had after that. So ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about everything in the comments. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz, Kaged Nation.